Hi, Travis Monson with Once Upon a Board Game. Today I'm going to teach you how to play Fairy Ring. This is a pretty new game. It just came out this year. It actually made lots of in the board game player world, right? Little content creators on YouTube, game reviewers. This made a lot of people's lists of their favorites of the year. It's fun. It's quick. It's really pretty on the table. Let me show you how it plays. Okay, as I said, I'm going to be teaching Fairy Ring. I've got this laid out for a 3-player game. I want to mention also there's a deck of 0, which are the starting cards, which I'll explain in a sec. Then there's the first round and second round cards. And similar to what certain other games do, there's a bunch of cards that have a 4 in the bottom. There's some that have a 3 in the bottom, there's some that have a 2 in the bottom. So you look through the deck and you make sure that you only include the cards that have the correct number of players. So if you're playing with less than 4 players, I would take the cards with a 4 out. So in here, if you look, I have the 2s and the 3s, right? Because we're playing a 3-player game. So just make sure you go through the decks and remove the excess cards so you only have the proper number, okay? So you'll notice that each player has their own little board where they're gonna be growing their own little mushroom village. Everybody has a cool little acrylic fairy standee. They stand up, they look really nice on the table, but I think maybe I'll just lay them down so you can see them better from the upper view. But those are really nice looking. There's these nice, cool, chunky little mana tokens, values 1 and 5. Everybody has a little score wheel that you keep track of your score on, and it does say to keep your score hidden from the other player, so you can leave that face down. There's little flower tokens and little objective cards. This is one of those little variants. So this is not necessarily the standard rules. This is maybe an advanced variant. So I'll come back to this at the end. So I'll just set those aside. And these little flower tokens, they have to do with those objective cards. Hey, there's also this little board that indicates who the start player is for the round. Okay. So for setup, you're going to give everybody their board and their fairy. You're going to give everybody their score wheel. And then you're going to shuffle the decks. I've already shuffled them both. Set them aside for the moment. And then once you've shuffled the starting cards, you deal 1 randomly to each player, okay? The other ones are just out of the game. You can put them back in the box. This represents every player's starting mushroom in their village, okay? So everybody just will put it up, flip it face over, and just put it in front of them, okay? And then, of course, your fairy will start on your starting mushroom, okay? Now, basically this game is played over 2 rounds, okay? So you go through the round 1 cards. When that's over, then you go and you deal out the round 2 cards and you play 1 more round. So after 2 rounds, the game is over and the highest score wins, okay? So you're gonna score points by getting mana. You're gonna convert mana. So every 20 mana that you score, you would pay it back to the bank to advance 1 point on your little score wheel, okay? So at the end of the game, the highest score on your score wheel is the winner. If there's a tie, multiple people have the same score, then whoever has the most remaining mana, because you think of mana as, fractions of a point, because 20 mana equals a point. So the most mana would be the tiebreaker. And beyond that, it doesn't say if there's a second level tiebreaker. So I guess you have to rejoice in your shared victory, like, like a lot of rules say. Okay, I'm just gonna deal really quick. You deal 7 cards to each player. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And there's always gonna be just a couple cards that you just set aside, okay? So each player will have their deck of cards. So I'll set those by those people, and I'll have my deck, okay? So what's gonna happen? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, okay. All right, so each turn, let me just show you how a turn's gonna work. We'll do it without even thinking it through. Every player is gonna pick a card in secret without revealing. The remaining cards you're gonna just set down on your board. So this person, let's say they pick this card and they put the remaining cards there. This person, let's say they pick this card to play and then they put the remaining cards here, okay? So everybody's gonna pick a card, okay? Again, you have a starting hand of 7 cards. So there's gonna be 6 cards remaining. Each round is played over 6 turns. So of the 7 cards, you're ultimately only gonna get to play 6 of them. Okay, the last card is just gonna get discarded at the end of the round, okay? So again, pick a card, set the remaining cards down at the edge of your board. Once everybody has chosen the card that they wanna play, then beginning with the player who has this little reminder of them being the start player, whoever has this little tile, they get to go first. and they're gonna take their mushroom card and they're gonna put it into play. Before I put that into play, I wanna just show you the mushroom cards and talk about them for a second, okay? Each mushroom card has a couple of pieces of information. First of all, in the upper left-hand corner, there's a number that represents the fairy's movement value. This one says a 4. There's some tiles that give you a choice. Like this one says 3, 4, or 5. So there's some that give you a little bit of flexibility. Some just have a set value, okay? There's also in the lower left-hand corner, there's basically a little representation of how this mushroom scores you mana, which is how you're gonna get points. When you get 20 mana, you cash it in for a point. Some of the mushroom tiles have little fireflies. Some have 1 or 2, or some have none. There's also a little dotted line that's for when you stack mushrooms to make them taller, which I'll get back to that, okay? So with the mushroom card, and so all the cards are gonna have those kind of features. So once you have chosen your card, starting with the start player, you put your mushroom into play. Your options are to either make an additional mushroom. You can always put it to the left or the right of anything in play. Or if you have one of the same type, maybe if I had this type, I can stack it taller. And that's where that little dotted line comes in. That's where you would basically stack the mushrooms to that little dotted line, okay? So for every mushroom that you play, again, put it to the left or the right. The one caveat is you cannot split and then put another mushroom in between. Once they're laid, they're played, right? They don't move. But there's no limit. You can have as many mushrooms as you want to the left or the right, okay? So each mushroom goes either to the left or the right of what's already played, or if it's the same type, you would stack it like I just showed, okay? And then what happens is you look at the movement value. This says 4. So once you've played your mushroom, you take your fairy, wherever they may be, and they make movement around what is a ring, a fairy ring. I know, I'm a dork. So the fairies move around the board that number of movement points. This is about to fall off the table. So I played a 4, so the fairy moves 4 steps. So they go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so they always go in a clockwise order, okay? And wherever they land, that mushroom gets activated. There is a little handy little player aid that comes in the box. It talks about the different mushroom types and how they score. Those are good references to have. After you've played, you can quickly remember, what they all do. For instance, this one just gives me a flat 3 mana. So I would just say, hey, I can take 3 mana because my fairy landed there, and so on, right? And then the next person. So again, it's beginning with the start player. Then the next player goes. So they play their mushroom. So they're going to also move 4 spaces. So they're counting 1, 2, 3. Maybe they want to do this. So they put it on this side. And again, this is when you start counting like, oh wait, how far is my fairy going to go? Where's it going to land? All that kind of stuff. The only person who really knows for sure where their fairy's going to land is the start player. The other people, they're not sure what mushroom's going to get added, if it's going to be another mushroom or just, the same number of mushrooms, but just taller and so forth. So this person plays a mushroom that says move 4 steps. So their fairy goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and they land on that one they just played. This one pays out 1 mana for however many steps the fairy moved that turn. So they moved 4, so they get to take 4 mana. So they take 4, okay? And then the next person plays their fairy, or their mushroom card. And again, this gives them the flexibility of going 3, 4, or 5 steps. They're gonna put it here, and I'll explain why in just a second. And, yes, they will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They can't quite get back to themselves. So this is one of those things I want to illustrate, okay? They are going to choose to move 3 steps with their fairy. They're going to go 1, 2, 3. Okay, now a couple of things happen. First of all, wherever the fairy lands, that mushroom activates. So I think, hey, that's great. Thank you very much. This type of mushroom, it just so happens to pay out 1 mana for every firefly that you have visible in your mushroom garden. So I would get paid out 2 mana. So I'll just put back my 3 and I'll take a 5, right? I'm just gonna scoot that up to leave more room for the mushroom cards, okay? So again, wherever the fairy lands, that person gets paid out. However, and this is the trick, if you, as the owner of the fairy, right, whenever your fairy moves, if they ever land on a type of mushroom that you also own in your display, you also get to activate a matching mushroom type of your own, okay? Again, if you have multiple mushroom, again, because you can always put mushroom cards to the left or the right of what you have. So if you have multiple mushrooms of the same type, you choose which one you want to activate. You may have one that's a lot bigger and more powerful, is going to give you more points versus a smaller one. So again, the fairy lands somewhere, that person gets paid out, but the owner also gets paid out if they have a matching type. That's why they ended there, because they couldn't quite get all the way back to themselves, so they might as well get paid out in addition to somebody else. So again, they get paid out 1 for every firefly. Unfortunately, they only have 1 firefly, so they get 1 mana for that. But there's also this other mushroom. They put it to the left because this one says every time that you pass over it, you get a point, a mana rather. That's why they put it to the left. So as they start the movement, they would pass over it and get that mana. Okay, and that's when any fairy passes over it, not just yourself. Okay, if you ever actually land on it, it doesn't do anything. You have to just pass over that one. Okay, so everybody played their card, and then the remaining cards, they all go around the board. It rotates, a little bit of a card draft. So my cards go there, those cards come here, and these cards come over here, right? So that each person, again, normally I would be thinking this, say, oh, you know, what do I want to play? You know, I'll just say, I'll just do that, for instance. You would put a little bit more time and thought into it, you know, if you were really playing. I'm just grabbing just to illustrate. So let's say they chose to play this one. They put the remainder down. This guy chooses this one, let's say. Let's get that mana out of the way. And they put the remainder here to pass. There's a little reminder. The up arrow, this is the card I'm going to play. The arrow to the left, that's the one that, you know, the one I'm going to play. And the rest of the cards are going to get passed. Okay? So then again, beginning with the person who has this tile, they get to go first. So they play, oh, a great example. I didn't even plan that out. But they play one. They could just add another mushroom. That's totally legal. That's fine. But they're thinking, you know what? I'm going to make my mushroom a little bit more powerful. Okay, so they're going to stack it. And this mushroom says a 4, so their fairy goes 4 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it lands over here. This mushroom, it's mine. It gets activated, so I get 3 mana. Unfortunately, this person does not have a matching mushroom type, so they don't get to activate. If they would have had one of those mushrooms, if they would have had one of those also in their display, for landing on that type, they also would get to activate theirs. They don't have one though, so just the place where the fairy landed. Okay, then the next person goes, they play their mushroom card. It's a new type. Let's just leave it there, I guess. And this has a 5, okay? So then the yellow fairy goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe they'll put it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They'll do that. They'll put it on that side. So they'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because if they would have landed on that, they wouldn't have gotten paid out, okay? You'll notice, oh, I should have mentioned, when the red fairy came around, they passed over his mushroom, so he should have gotten paid 1 more when the red fairy moved. So I should have done that a moment ago. And now, once again, he just moved himself past this mushroom, so this mushroom pays out 1, and he landed on this mushroom that says, I get one mana for every mushroom that I have in my possession, so I get 3 more. So I'll put back 2 and take 5, and so on, right? Then I play mine. I play a Circus Magicus, and it's a 5. My fairy is here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't have one of those types. I do have one of those, so if I make an extra step of movement, maybe I'll do this. I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He lands here. So again, this person gets paid out 1 for every firefly. They now have 3 fireflies, so they get 3. So they'll put back the 2 and take the 5. And then, since I have a matching mushroom type of where my fairy landed, I also get paid out 1 for every firefly. I have 3 fireflies. I also get 3. So I'll put back 2 and take a 5. Okay, and then again, the cards would pass. Okay, now I just want to illustrate when the mushrooms stack, what happens. So let me just set up a card a little bit differently to illustrate that. Okay, let's just imagine for a second that I already, maybe after a couple more rounds of card playment, maybe my mushroom garden looked like this. And then I took that turn. I did what I just did. Okay, I play this and I get a movement of 5. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he ends up where he just did, right? So again, this person would get the mana. I just played that out. You see how that works. But now I get to activate a matching mushroom type in my own village. And this is great. This is what I was looking for. And here's the benefit of why you would stack mushrooms, okay? When you activate a mushroom, every mushroom card that makes up part of that mushroom, they all activate. So instead of just getting 1 point for every firefly that I see, each card gives me 1 point per firefly. So essentially, fireflies are worth 3 points each now. So instead of just the 3 points that I would have gotten, like you saw a moment ago, now I get 9. Each card is going to give me 3. So this mushroom is worth 9 mana for me. So that's why sometimes you maybe want to stack up your mushroom cards to get them taller and taller, because then you get a much more powerful activation when you move. But again, you're going to play a mushroom card. Again, it can always go to the left or right. There's no limit to the number of mushrooms that you play. You just can't split it and add it in between. That's the one thing you can't do. Okay? So again, put it to the left or right, or stack it up taller on a matching mushroom. The limit is 4 cards tall. It can never be taller than 4. Okay, so that would be the maximum you could do. So once you play your mushroom card, you'll move your fairy, the matching number of points. Whatever mushroom it lands on, of course, that mushroom gets activated and that person gets paid out mana. But then if you have a matching mushroom in your farm, then of course you would also get to activate the matching mushroom. And again, if you have multiple, like for instance, let's say maybe I had a farm like this. I have maybe one of those that's size 2, and then maybe this player. Okay, something like this. So maybe on my next turn, if I moved and landed here, this person would get paid out because I landed on that. But then I get to activate a matching mushroom type. Well, I've got 2 matching mushroom types to that, right? So I get to choose. Well, this one would just give me out, this one card would pay out, whereas this would pay out for both of those cards. So I can activate this mushroom and then get the mana. So that's how it works. Again, each turn, you're gonna just play the card and then move your fairy and score mana, whether it's gonna help somebody else out and or help you. That's kind of fun, is getting it puzzled out, and you never really know exactly how far your fairy is going to move, because unless you're the start player, because you never know if they're going to stack up or add more mushrooms. That's going to change the movement of your fairy. But like I said, you start each round with 7 cards, so you play 6 turns of doing that. At the end of each card playment, you pass the remaining cards, and then so there's another person that gets to go first. When you get down to your final 2 cards, you're going to pick one for your 6th and final card play for that turn, and the card number 7 just gets discarded. It doesn't get played. Okay, and then you go into round 2. So you would set aside all the remaining round 1 cards. Those are all gone. Those are just discarded. Well, the ones that are in play are kept, but those leftover cards you didn't use are set aside. And again, and then you shuffle and deal out 7 cards to each player. Same way. The thing about these is the movement values are higher, and the point values, the way that mushrooms pay out are the same. But the movement values are bigger and higher because, there's more mushrooms in play. So these cards help you get around, move your fairies around the fairy ring a little quicker. And once you've played 2, and again, every time, like let's say at any point during the game, as you're earning mana, I was kind of talking about this before, but whenever you get 20 mana, okay, if I've got the 20 mana, I can cash that in to then adjust 1 point on my score dial, my little score marker. And again, then you keep that hidden. Okay, so that's how Fairy Ring works. Again, it's 2 quick rounds of playing 6 cards each round, moving the fairies and scoring the mana. That's how it works. I will also briefly, let me just move this down really quick, talk about these objective cards. Okay, this is one of those variant rules in the rule book. Okay, there's 4 of them that come in the game, but they're double-sided, so there's 8 different objectives. So each game it says that you choose 3. Again, if you choose to use these. And you just lay them out. You choose whatever side to use from each card. They'll do something like this, okay? And then so there's a public objective that all 4 people, or 3 or 2, all the people that are playing in the game are trying to get. And that's where your little flowers come into play, okay? You keep track of when you meet the objective, you can put a little flower to show that you've met that objective, okay? Meeting an objective, for instance, this one says, I want 6 different types of mushrooms in my mushroom village. Okay, so the moment I do that, I can say, hey, look, I've got 6 mushrooms. I'm going to claim that objective. And whenever you score an objective, it immediately gives you a full point. So it's like you just scored 20 mana, right? And so that's another way to kind of spice up the game, give you something else to think about, and it makes it a little bit more fun. It doesn't really complicate the game too much. It's definitely worth including. I forgot to mention, when you play with the objectives, with the player aid cards, the front, of course, tells you how the different mushrooms score the mana. The back has a little breakdown of the different goal cards and what each one means and what it is that you're trying to do. So that's a little handy player aid to have when you're playing. But that's Fairy Ring. Again, at the end of that second round, the most points on the dial is going to be the winner. And again, the most remaining mana would be the tiebreaker. That's how to play. So that's Fairy Ring. Again, it's quick. It's a short game. You just play the 2 rounds. You get through the deck 1 cards, and you just get the 6 turns. So and then 6 more cards in round 2. So really, you're only playing 12 cards over the course of the game, and that's it. So you really gotta try and maximize it. But it's always kind of fun trying to figure out, like, oh, do I want to make a bigger mushroom to make sure I get that big payout when it happens, or do I want to try and get more mushrooms to increase my odds of making sure that wherever my fairy lands, I have a matching mushroom to activate. So it's kind of cool. Like you're thinking back and forth between puzzle and that, and then when you add those objective tiles, it gives you another layer of strategy to think about, something to work on. But it's really fun. Some people may say, well, it's dumb. I hate giving points to other people when I land on their mushroom. Well, that's all just part of it. You just got to make sure that when you land on their mushroom, you get a bigger payout than they do. So that's just part of it. But it's been really fun. It's a quick game, and it's very pretty. As you saw, the pieces are really nice. They're high quality. It's really pretty to look at, and yeah, it's been fun for us. So hopefully this teaches you how to play. And if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And thanks for watching.